Fictional teachers have had as much of an influence, both positive and negative.
I need an aide. I'm outnumbered in there. The kids are crazy. One of them told me to mind my six this morning. I don't know what that means. I need help.
Calm down. They're just kids. And besides, aides cost money, and we don't have that.
Right, but
On my teaching career, as much as any real-life teacher has, but my greatest inspiration that wasn't a real-life person has by far been Mr. Feeny from the hit show Boy Meets World. So much so that I have had a picture for years of him above my desk in my classroom. A picture that would lead many children to ask me, Mr. Reynolds, is that your dad? Kids these days, huh, Feeny? And today I want to share with you a few of the invaluable lessons that Mr. Feeny shared over the 7 seasons of Boy Meets World. And although they might look a little cheesier now, these are still things that really inspire me. Feeny, let's go. Before I jump into my first tip, I want to know who's a fictional character from a TV show, a movie, or a book that has inspired you as an educator. Leave it in the comments below. I'm really interested to hear what y'all have to say. Number 1, embracing failure as a learning opportunity. I want my students to realize that failure is a natural part of the learning process.
I know the assignment was to help him succeed, but Mr. Feeny, it was like he didn't need my help on this one. You know, he was gonna do this one on his own. No matter what. Guess I failed, huh?
On the contrary, Mr. Matthews, you pass with flying colors, and so does Mr. Hunter. Corey, Sean isn't going to go to college and succeed because you want him to. He has to want to, and believe that he can. And the only way he can do that is on his own, without your help.
Then why did you want me to help him?
You need to know you won't always be able to.
One of my favorite poems ever is a poem called The Victory Explosion by Derek Brown, in which he says, "Losing is pregnant with chance. Victory escorts loss to every dance." I think sometimes schools are too hyper-focused on things like grades, on test scores, on student perfection. And look, winning is great, and success is the goal with students. But when we fear losing as students and as teachers, we're missing out on a really great opportunity to grow. Number 2, maintaining integrity and authenticity. One of my favorite things about working with young people is that you get to work with them at such a critical point in their lives. We meet them at all these junctures that are turning points where they are literally in front of our eyes becoming who they are going to become. And this gives us a unique ability to speak into kids' lives so we can provide much needed guidance sometimes to help them become who they are meant to be so they can be that most authentic version of themselves. 3, dress for success. Feeny never actually said this on the show, but if you see my man, he is never not dressed for the job every day. I tried to get a little Feeny-esque with this outfit, but my man always rocked like a suit coat over the sweater, over the shirt, and I just feared I would succumb to heat exhaustion if I did that. Especially the way I run around my classroom. It's just wouldn't be a safe situation, and it would be very sweaty. And this isn't to say that you have to wear a suit and a tie or a sweater or a vest, but I love the idea of going to school intentionally dressed for the day. I said this in a recent video where I feel like I'm putting on armor when I show up to school, and I think there's something about that intentionality. Number 5, having real rap. Real rap is a term that gets taken out of context on my channel all the time, but essentially it is this idea, it's a term my students used in Philly, where if they had to have a real conversation with me, or they knew I had to have a real conversation with them, they would term it having real rap with Reynolds, which really just meant that we had to have a real talk. One of the things that I really gleaned from Mr. Feeny on Boy Meets World is that he never sugarcoated anything for students. He told you what you needed to know exactly how it was.
The only thing that limits you, Mr. Matthews, is your laziness. I mean, you're just looking for an excuse to never get the grades that I know you're capable of getting.
I'm not capable. And they're just grades.
Just grades? Oh, well. I mean, it's just Europe. And they're just girls. And it's just a beach. Unless you happen to know that on that beach, in June of 1944, 150,000 troops landed and began the liberation of Europe. So that 50 years later, those girls could run around on that beach in freedom.
Am I interrupting?
Miss Hart, please, come in. In a way, this involves you.
It does?
Yes, Mr. Matthews just dropped by to confess that he has been cheating on his tests.
He has.
Yes. And since you've been tutoring him, I assumed...
Did he say I gave him the answers?
As a matter of fact, Mr. Matthews claimed that...
I can't believe you, Eric. I just tried to help you. How could you do this to me?
I didn't.
I didn't think he could pass the test.
Oh? Why not?
I just don't think he's the student type.
And are you the teacher type? Or the type that just writes people off?
It doesn't mean that I didn't like you.
Well, you certainly don't respect him.
The thing I love about this clip is that Feeny realizes that there's no benefit to being overly gentle with students or making light of an issue. With both Eric and his tutor, he gave it to them in the realest way imaginable, but that you could see had an effect on them. And although this is a television show and we are teachers in real life, this happens all the time. So whether a student is being mean or failing, not living up to their potential, being inappropriate or taking the wrong path, they don't benefit from us being gentle and communicating with them. They do benefit from us being real. It is speaking truth with love. It might make them mad, it might make you uncomfortable, but it always serves them better. As teachers, we know that this job leaves you with 17 tabs open in your brain and on your desktop at any time. Lesson planning alone can feel like you're juggling flaming swords, and there's never enough time to get everything done. But what if I told you that lesson planning doesn't have to be that way? Imagine a life in which you're reclaiming your time, reducing your stress, and creating lessons that your students actually love. That sounds too good to be true. I'm telling you that it is not. Join me on Saturday, February 1st for my live lesson planning workshop, where I'll show you the systems I've created over the last 20 years to simplify my lesson planning process, connect my lessons to real life, and to actually have fun while teaching again. And by being a part of this training, you'll get over 200 journal prompts, lesson planning templates, and all of the tools you'll need to take this year from surviving to thriving. This is the most comprehensive lesson planning workshop I have ever put on. So if you are ready to move from working harder to working smarter, grab your spot now and let's make the rest of 2025 your best year ever. Because not only do your students deserve it, you deserve it. So click the link below and let's get started. Next is the commitment to lifelong learning. Mr. Feeny exemplifies the commitment to lifelong learning. He's always seen reading, expanding his knowledge, getting better at his craft as an educator. I think this serves as a good reminder to teachers to be lifelong learners, to remain curious, and to model a passion for learning. Look, I think that as educators, we should never be asking our students to do anything that we wouldn't be willing to do ourselves. So if I want my kids to be nice, to work hard, to be a lifelong learner, to learn from their failures, or just not to compare themselves to other people, I need to not be just willing to do that, but be willing to try and do it better than my students so I can remain the example. And lastly, it's believe in yourself and strive for excellence. Or as I tell my students all the time, you belong everywhere.
We wanted to know if you had anything else left to teach us.
No. My work with you is done.
I don't know. It's pretty scary. Going into a whole new world.
And you're ready to go into that world.
Even me.
Even you. Believe in yourselves. Dream. Try. Do good.
I want to always do my best to instill a feeling of self-belief in my students, a feeling of hope, a feeling of relevancy in my lessons so that they realize that this is actually important and it is meant to help you become the person you were called to become. Because I want my students always to walk into the world knowing without a doubt that they got this, that they belong here, and to do good in the world. All these years later, these lessons from Feeny and many more really still, they resonate with me. I think they offer timeless guidance. As was mentioned earlier, if you're interested in becoming a part of our lesson planning workshop, please go ahead and click the link in the description below. It is going to be an awesome training with tons of resources. I'm very excited for you all to join us and subscribe and all that other stuff, and we'll see you next time, gang. Peace.